Greetings to all you precious people out there in Cyberland. My name is Steve Vargas Betancourt, also known as King Seeker, also known as Awafaka Niorumila Omochun. And I wanted to make this video because I thought that it would perhaps help some people understand me better, maybe understand themselves a little bit better. And so essentially this particular video is to outline my spiritual journey. And I felt like I wanted to talk about my journey, where I've been. Haven't even really thought about or mapped out how I want to discuss my spiritual journey, so we'll see how this goes, where I begin, where I go, where I continue on to. But I did want to just give an outline of where I've been. And so when I think about my spiritual journey, I think about first those spiritual experiences that I've had, the earliest that I can remember, those things that draw me to having a spiritual perspective on life. And I try to think back on my earliest thoughts on spirituality. I wasn't raised in a home of spirituality. I come from a broken home. I'm a son of an adulterous relationship. My father, may he rest in peace in God's glory, Urbano Tito Vargas. He was already married. He had a family, plenty of children, and he cheated on his wife with my mother. He was in his 40s, my mom was 19, and had 3 children, which were my older brother Spirit, myself, and my sister Myra. So I'm not going to really go into my upbringing, so to say, and the things of my life and things that I've experienced. I'm trying to just keep the focus on spirituality in and of itself and everything spiritual. I'd say that my first encounter with anything remotely spiritual was when I was in a foster home. I remember one of the foster homes that I was in. I remember this Spanish lady, her name was Juana, and I remember I went into her room one day, and she had a little altar. Don't remember too much about it, but it was something in the corner of her dresser, and there was like a little mojo bag or something, like a little bag, like maybe like that big, or something inside of it. I don't know. But I went and I was curious about the bag, so I went and grabbed the bag. I must have been, what, 8 years old maybe? Grabbed the bag. And as soon as I grabbed the bag, the door slammed. Whether there was a breeze or a window open or anything that could have caused it at that time, I really can't recall any of those specific details. I just know that when I picked the thing up, the door slammed. And I remember hearing Juana come down the hall telling me to get out of her room and not to touch that. Never knew what that was, or but I guess I would classify that as a particular spiritual encounter, if you will, or an encounter with stuff that I don't know, stuff that I don't understand. And fast forward that, and I find myself. I remember as a young man living in a residential school, a school that you live in, and it was an escape for me in a sense. Even though I was kicked out of all of the schools of New York City for bad behavior and other incidents, I was sent to a school where you live in. But the school was in a beautiful neighborhood in the mountains of Great Barrington in Massachusetts. And it was actually a mansion that they transformed into a home for like 23 young men. And I got to do a lot of wonderful, beautiful things out there. But I remember also, at night I would look up at the stars and I would just ask the stars to communicate with me. I would say, if you're out there, please let me know you're out there. Let me see a shooting star right there. And where I would point, sometimes I'd see a shooting star. And so I was always fascinated. And I guess what motivated that was perhaps a belief in extraterrestrial or other life. And I would think that I can communicate with just my thoughts. And so I would try to communicate with my thoughts, thinking that I was being heard, and that somehow these entities could communicate with me. These are some of my early memories. Then if I fast forward again, hit the fast forward button again, I find myself teenager, already experiencing everything, all the bad of life, growing up in the streets of Brooklyn. I mean, you're bred with the streets. All you see is death, decay, violence, drugs, sex. That's how I grew up. That's all that I saw around me. There was never no male figure in my life that I can look back on and thank for giving me guidance. And so perhaps I think that maybe the spiritual world took that extra care and guided me in my life, since I didn't have a particular person or a male figure in my life, a mentor, an uncle. My mom had escaped my dad in Puerto Rico and raised us the best she could. At times we were in foster homes. Then she'd get us back. And life was what it was in New York City, coming up in New York City. But I find myself as a teenager in New York City, and I remember my mom had taken in a man in a wheelchair to stay with us. And this man, may he rest in peace as well, played a big part of the evolution of my spiritual life. This man, I guess he had money from lawsuits, from his accident, so he always had money every month. But this man was a junkie too. He'd do all kinds of drugs, specifically heroin, a lot of heroin, crack, and I would generally be the one sent to go get the drugs for him. So every day it was like a journey to go find a new spot or a new connection and bring back the drugs. Um, and at that time, I just partaked of, I smoked weed, drank beer. Not sure if I tried mixing crack and weed at that time. That came later on in life. Cocaine. There was a lot I was exposed to. But we're talking about my spiritual experience. And so I recall his name is Hector. I remember him telling us an incident that happened to him where we lived in the projects, and I guess he was about to get robbed by two individuals. They pulled out guns on him, allegedly, right? And then he says, when he tells the story, when he told the story, that he looked up and he saw something. He didn't know what. He didn't know what. He just said he saw something, and that all of a sudden, then the guys had ran away. And from that moment on, Hector had some type of an epiphany, a spiritual experience, or some type of an encounter where he decided to quit doing drugs cold turkey. And I believe that he didn't even get sick. He just switched from doing hard drugs to just smoking weed. I think his drugs were weed and porn. I'm pretty sure he smoked a lot of weed and watched a lot of porn. But he would always be in his room praying or in some type of a trance, speaking in another language, and speaking in a sense what you might call prophetically, or acting like he was in the know of something deep and spiritual. And I remember being attracted to that. I remember saying, wow, I would like to have a spiritual moment. I want to have a spiritual encounter for myself. I want to be a part of this spiritual thing that was happening. And so Hector was, he was reading the Bible a lot. And I remember I said, okay, well, I want to read the Bible too. And I said, well, what should I read? And I remember he told me, go read the book of Revelation. Then go read Ezekiel. Then go read Isaiah. And I would read these books. Didn't understand anything about anything at that moment, just literal reading the pages. And I came across verses in the Bible that spoke about a certain number of folks that would be saved. I was reading in the book of Revelation, and I was reading about 144,000. And at that time, I thought to myself, wow, that seems to be like a low number. I didn't understand what I was reading. I do now. But it seemed like a low number. And so I remember praying, and I said, wow, God, if you're there, if you hear me, I really want to be chosen to be one of these 144,000. I don't want to be left behind. I don't want to be disregarded. And so in this 144,000, it was supposed to be 12,000 from each tribe. This was in the Bible, from each tribe of Israel. And so I remember asking Hector, I said, hey, what tribe am I? What tribe do I pertain to? He told me, oh, you're in the tribe of Judah, or something like that. I said, okay. And then I would keep reading, and then I would try to tell people about God. When I saw them fighting, I'd tell them, God doesn't want us to fight. He wants us to get along with each other. And then a lot of dramatic very impactful, traumatic incidents occurred in my life at that time. And I remember finding myself in a very, very precarious situation, almost a life and death situation. And I remember calling out in prayer and just saying, God, please, if you're real, if you exist, please make a way, open a door for me to get out of this situation. And if you do, then I'll serve you for the rest of my life. That was a promise that I had made. And that particular situation, I was able to walk through that situation. It was a very trying time. I walked through that situation. And so from that moment on, I always felt like I had some type of a debt to God that I would have to fulfill. And that's how I lived life. And so I felt no matter what, no matter where I'd go, that I would somehow maintain my connection with God by always having a Bible with me, and always reading. And so as a teenager, I remember going to Job Corps, and I remember I would go find a hill or a mountain somewhere secluded, and I would sit there and I would just open the Bible and I would let the wind blow the pages, and wherever the wind stopped blowing and wherever the pages landed, I would take that as where God wanted me to read, or where God wanted me to learn at that particular moment. And so I always felt like I had some type of a connection with the divine in that sense. And I would always strive to be connected with God through that Bible. And so as time goes on, I had not yet stepped foot in any church or anything like that. I've never visited any churches or had anyone to evangelize or anything like that to me. But I continue going, I continue to search, I continue to try to understand what my spirituality was. I would notice that in New York City you had churches on every block, but you'd have like 3 or 4 churches on one block, and it's still like that to this day. You'd find like 3 or 4 churches on one block, and they all would have all of these different names. I never understood the difference of why there was so many different types of churches and people would group under that name, whatever that name of that church was. So those are things that always stuck in the back of my head that I never really figured out at that time. I figured them all out. Now, hopefully I'll get to it. I'm not sure how long I'll go on this. If I'll do this in parts, I think I'll do that. I'll do this in parts and in segments and just upload them that way, so I don't make the videos too long. So let's see, maybe I'll do this one 20-25 minutes or so, going on 20 minutes now. So Job Corps found me in attempting to have some type of spirituality, not being connected. See, before that particular, when I was in Job Corps, I'd say I was about 18. That was right before I joined the military. But even before that, um, I found myself in a lot of life and death situations. I've had guns drawn at me in my face because they thought that folks were looking for other people that I was associated with, and it was really scary. I slept in people's couches. I slept house to house. Slept in friends' houses for some time, but for a significant portion of my life, I did live with who I call my brother. His name is Scott. Still friends, still brothers to this day. Him and his family helped me, and they allowed me to live with them in the suburbs of upstate New York in a beautiful house with a pool. And I never really experienced a Thanksgiving dinner with family until I did it at their house, and I remember it was a beautiful feeling. The family showed me a lot of love, um, especially his mother, Beverly Bosley. May she be in God's glory. She is who I call my mother in the wilderness. She was always very kind to me. She opened the doors. She allowed her son to bring me in, let me live with them, and she was a very beautiful soul. She was a very beautiful soul, and the family did allow me the honor to speak at her funeral when she passed away a few years ago. Uh, I love her very much. She was such a beautiful soul, beautiful soul. But throughout a lot of incidents and still with people that I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with, I wound up leaving that house, and that's when I was living house to house, friends' houses, and life was it was just a gamble. We never knew what the streets were going to bring. And so at that time, my mom had moved up here where I live now to Massachusetts, and with Hector, and then I moved up. She told me I can come up here with her. Came up here with her, and that's when I got my GED, signed up for Job Corps, and tried to have my life. Try to see what my life was going to become. So I think I'll stop the video and call that a part one, just some basics, and then I'll try to give it a little bit more thought to see where I'll take part two too. And again, I'm trying to keep the focus to try to give you an idea of my particular spirituality and where I've gone. Right now, my faith is through Ifa. I follow Ifa, La Regla de Ifa, y Ocha, which I'll go into more definitions later on in other parts, but that is my current faith. I believe in God, Olodumare, and I venerate the spirits of my ancestors right now, currently. So we'll talk about how I got from there to where I am now, and hopefully we'll do that in several parts, and I'll keep it going. But I'll sign off for now. Again, I don't want to make each video too long, but I do want to talk about my spiritual journey. That's what this is about, my spiritual journey. So again, this is Steve Vargas Betancourt. To any viewers, whether I know you, whether I don't know you, feel free. I'm not really after any likes, subscriptions, and all the shares and all that. You could do that if you want. If not, doesn't make any difference. I just want to create a memory. I want to create these videos as long as there's internet, so that should my family, my children wish to see it, maybe in some time when I'm not here anymore, they might want to go back and see everything that Dad spoke about. I'm I'm a father of 9 children, 2 grandchildren so far. So I think it's important for them to have some type of a record. So this one is just again going to be about my spirituality and how it developed to what it is now and how it continues to evolve. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for watching. And if you're going to join me through the rest of the parts to this little series of my spiritual journey, thank you for your support, and I hope it helps answers any questions you may have of me, of yourself, and your spiritual journey. Maybe it'll give you some type of insight and help. But ultimately, I am here to help. I'm here to help as much as I can. My ultimate goal is to be able to somehow leave this earth in a better place than it was, based on how I've lived my life. So I just want to live my life as a magnet for love. I want to love. I want to show love, balance, understanding in everything that I do. So again, thank you for viewing. I hope you get something out of this. If you do, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Anything ignorant, of course, I'm going to, if there should anything ignorant come, I'm just going to delete that. Any bots or anything like that, I'm not going to entertain that. But if you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them, reach out, and I'll reach back. Again, this is Steve Vargas. I'm signing off. Until part 2. Take care, everybody. Bye.